Hi, this is Scott Garibay, and today we're going to talk about Shadowrun 6th Edition, The Curse of the Bambino, and how to deal with a game owner that you have lost your goodwill for. Okay. All right, let's talk about Shadowrun. All right, so Shadowrun 6th Edition is out. I am a huge Shadowrun fan. I like to still say that. Maybe at the end of this video, you could tell me if I'm still a Shadowrun fan, because I'm having a hard time with it. All right, Shadowrun 6th Edition just dropped. It is available now for purchase, and I'm not happy. I'm not a happy camper. All right, so let's talk about the history of Shadowrun. I'll explain why I'm not happy with Shadowrun 6th Edition. All right, so one, I played Shadowrun from very near the start. So it started in 1989. I actually came in 1992 and was playing it, and I played 1st edition, 2nd edition, 3rd edition, 4th edition, and I played Shadowrun Anarchy. Okay? All right, I have not played 5th edition, and I have not played 6th edition. All right, and I actually don't own either one of those games. So, but I do own 1st edition, 2nd edition, 3rd edition, 4th edition, and Shadowrun Anarchy. Now, the reason why and let me throw this in there too, I also own the Shadowrun 20th Anniversary Edition, right? So, the Shadowrun 20th Anniversary Edition is a major edition. It came out 3 years, it came about 3 or 4 years after 4th edition came out. It was a major overhaul, and the book, it was done actually, 20th Anniversary Edition is my absolute favorite version of Shadowrun, bar none. It's amazing, actually. But it really counts as its own edition, right? So that means if you count up all the editions, 1 through 6, plus Shadowrun Anarchy, which is supposed to be which is Shadowrun Rules Light, which is 250 pages long, which is an oxymoron, right? And if you count the 20th Anniversary Edition, which if you were a fan, like if you were a GM, you had to buy that book. You couldn't just keep playing 4th. It was a major overhaul. It fixed a whole bunch of stuff, and it gave organizational tips that made the game much, much easier, right? All right, so here's the thing, right? That means there's 8 editions of Shadowrun. There have been 8 editions of Shadowrun in 30 years. That means that every single edition of Shadowrun didn't even last 4 years. Not even 4 years, right? That's ridiculous. So, like, 3.33 is like the amount of time that Shadowrun has been iterating. That is too fast, right? And here's what's even worse, right? Here we are 30 years later with 8 editions of the game, right? And here's the thing. So one, we're going to take Shadowrun 20th Anniversary Edition off the shelf, right? It was a really good version, but what it did was it took the existing versions and made much, much better art, much, much better organization. It was perfect execution on Shadowrun, and what is Shadowrun? Let me tell you real quick, right? Shadowrun is one of the best tabletop role-playing game worlds that has ever been created, with one of the absolute worst rule sets ever created. It is a steaming pile. Like, the rule system is literally gigantic dice as a pool, and this is not an exaggeration. 10, 15, 20 dice pools with 10, 15, 20 d6s being rolled, sometimes with different colors in the mix. It was a mess. It was an absolute mess, right? There's this thing called Edge. There's like combat codes. It is... The rules are just terrible. They always have been, right? Now, it wasn't a problem for me, right? Because generally, rules design in the 70s, 80s, and 90s were pretty poor, right? And that's the reason why is the tabletop role-playing game design scene had not matured, right? Now, right now, right, 45 years after the introduction of Dungeons & Dragons, we have one of the most mature tabletop role-playing design communities. It's incredible. Like, we've gone leaps and bounds. You can find whatever game you need. There's well over 500 good games that exist, and there's easily over 1,000 tabletop role-playing games, right? Maybe the good game number is as low as 300, but there are legit 300 good games you can play right now, easily, right? And there are easily 1,000 tabletop role-playing games, right? And some of the design that is in there is absolute brilliant genius, right? But the reality is, here we are, 30 years later, 8 editions of the game, okay? All right, one edition was decent, which was the 20th anniversary edition. Actually, it was good execution on a poor rules design. It was still bad rules design, right? But there is merit in the 20th anniversary edition. It's almost worth buying, even if you're just a tabletop role-playing fan. It was that good. It was pretty incredible. All right, let's talk about 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, and 6, and let's talk about Shadowrun. Actually, I already talked about Shadowrun Anarchy. Shadowrun Anarchy was a hot mess. It was supposed to be the Rules Light edition, and it was supposed to make everything simpler and faster, right? And it was so clear what happened. It was, the people, I think it was Catalyst Games at the time, took one of their regular designers, and one of them read a PBTA game once, and then they tried to slap a skin on Shadowrun. It was a mess. It was a hot mess, Shadowrun Anarchy. And I'm a little bitter about it, right? Because I was excited for that game, and I desperately wanted to play Shadowrun in a usable rules system, right? It's not good, right? And it's not just me saying that. Adam Cobell, that guy, he outpaces me in every way on tabletop role-playing design, and even on tabletop role-playing game knowledge, right? He says the same thing about Shadowrun Anarchy, and he's not it doesn't look like he's a super fan of 6th edition either, right? So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, and 6, right? These things have virtually no difference between them. It's all tweaks. Turn this knob, turn this knob, turn this knob. It's fundamentally the same thing. Edge throughout, right? Combat codes, different types of damage, different types of damage that are applied to different characters. The astral plane is like you have layers in the game where people are sitting in the astral plane, other people are in the matrix, other people are in the corporeal world. None of the game mechanics help to solve this narrative problem. The rules are a hot mess. It is a hot mess, right? And I am legit frustrated, right? Because I love this game, but I haven't been able to play 5th or 6th edition. I did not abandon Shadowrun. I went over and got Monty Cook's Cypher and ran Cypher Shadowrun. You can find that game right on YouTube, right? And the reality is, it was painful. It's painful for me to see a 6th edition coming out. I've watched the reviews. I've read all the material from Catalyst Games. And I even downloaded I think they had a quick start, right? And it's a mess. It is just it's the same thing. It's we need a new edition for $ reasons, or maybe that's, you know what? I don't even think they're doing it for money. I think the reality is they have a bunch of people there who are not paying attention to modern tabletop role-playing game design. They're reading Shadowrun fiction. They're reading the Shadowrun books over and over again. They're talking to their Shadowrun fans at conventions, and they're saying, "Let's make this tweak. Let's make this tweak." And the reality is, I just had it, right? So here's the issue, right? Where does the curse of Bambino come in, right? Well, the Red Sox did not win the World Series between 1918 and 2004. It was 86 years before they could win the World Series. That's what I feel like. How long do I have to wait for a decent version of Shadowrun? The game is amazing. It is amazing. But the rules are trash, right? And I want this fixed, right? I'm tired. It's painful to even see new versions come out because it's upsetting, right? So all right. Now I want to be respectful. I don't want to complain if there isn't real reason for complaint, right? But I really feel there is legit reason for complaint. I think if you read 5 and 6, it is super clear that the people who are working at Catalyst are not reading the most up-to-date material in tabletop role-playing games. They're not improving their tabletop role-playing game design. They are tweaking a trash rule system, and that's all they're willing to do. So at this point, I no longer want to sit by idly and see this game languish, right? So what do I do from a respectful perspective to get this game into a place where it can actually be a decent game with a decent rule system, right? Well, this is what I'm going to do, but I don't really have much hope that this is going to work, right? So I'm really kind of crying out to you and saying, what do you think? If you have a better idea, please let me know. So here's what I'm going to do, right? Shadowrun is actually owned by Topps, the people who made baseball cards. I kid you not, right? And the reality is, I think they don't really care that much what's happening. Catalyst Games actually licenses the rights to print Shadowrun, right? And they have made it profitable. They have made the game profitable. It is profitable. I don't think it's a huge seller, but they've made it profitable. It does decent, And when I go to conventions and stuff, they have very large displays. They're making money without a doubt. Like they have turned the game into a profitable venture, right? That's not nothing, right? But I think, as a fan, we should have a rules system that's as good as the world, right? And I have lost any faith that anyone at Catalyst Games can write a decent game. And the reason why is when they did Shadowrun Anarchy, it was clear that they were looking sideways. But the reality is, you're not going to build a world class game. I apologize if this isn't respectful, but with mediocre talent, I think that's the issue. Is the game is a world-class game. It's a world-class world in the hands of people with mediocre talent for tabletop role-playing game design. I apologize if that's not respectful. I know that's a harsh word, and I am legit a little bit upset about this. This game is really important to me. It's one of the best tabletop role-playing games in my memory and in my heart and in my mind and in my soul. I love this game, and it's painful to see, 5th and 6th were cuts, I feel like I'm still bleeding from them, right? And I really want to see this go the right way. So my plan is to write a letter, not to Catalyst Games, but to Topps, and say, listen, I'm a super fan. I've been around for a long time. I really, and then lay it out and say, listen, can you please look at Tiny Dungeon? Can you look at, and actually I'll say to Topps, you guys don't need, you own the game. You're not that much into tabletop role-playing games. You're more about baseball cards or whatever you make now. And the reality is, this needs to go into the hands of someone like who's running Gallant Knight Games, who's running Runehammer Games, Adam Cobell, Sage Latora, right? Any of those people would be able to do a fantastic job, right? And there's even more out there. There's some great talent, right? And the reality is, this game's got to get cut down to under 99 pages long. And honestly, it has to be ready to abandon its current fan base, right? Because its current fan base I think it's almost a vicious cycle of Catalyst Games is selling to that group of people who want the game to remain calcified, right? Now, that's all I'm going to do, just write a letter to Topps. That's my plan, right? I think that's a respectful plan. I think it's a reasonable plan. I think there's a 1% chance this will work, right? But the reason why I'm willing to take my time and do it is I would really like to see Shadowrun rescued. I think that's the best word. This is very, very frustrating. I'm really curious. Are you in this boat? Is there an intellectual property that you are just absolutely in love with, and you're just painfully watching it get bounced around and watch it languish as it's mishandled, in my opinion? If you are, please let me know your experience in below, and especially let me know if you found any way to nudge an owner that you have lost your goodwill for in the right direction. Thanks for your patience hearing me. I know this one sounded a little bitter, and I wish I had a better outlook on all this. But looking at Shadowrun 6th edition, your expectations are so high, and then what's being delivered is so far below them, and it's kind of legit upsetting. Again, thank you for your patience with my words today. And let me know your thoughts in the comments below if you have any good advice. Please consider liking and subscribing, and have a wonderful millennium.